Recording live from Glory Hole Studios in Chicago and beyond. This is Cognitive Dissonance. Every episode we blast anyone who gets in our way. We bring critical thinking, skepticism, and irreverence to any topic that makes the news, makes it big, or makes us mad. It's skeptical, it's political, and there is no welcome mat. Today is Thursday, September the 4th.
Do you think, Tom, like today's show there's some points that are shitty.
Yeah.
But I also think that there's some hope in today's show.
I think there might be some glimmers, my friend. Some real judicial glimmers.
I don't feel like it's all bad news this week.
This is an interesting week for that.
Unlike most weeks,
right?
There's almost always just wall-to-wall bad news where you're like, hey man, that sucks.
Right, yeah.
Can I tell you about all the things that suck in the world? This week, I feel like there's a little bit of stuff. But we do have to start with bad news.
Bad news. Let's start with bad news. This is from The Independent. RFK Jr., who doesn't have a medical degree.
I love that that's on the headline.
Says he can diagnose children just by looking at them. Now, I want to read exactly what he said because it's fucking bonkers. He says, I know what a healthy child is supposed to look like. This is during a press conference with Texas Governor Greg Abbott. I'm looking at kids while I walk through the airports today, as I walk down the street, and I see these kids that are just overburdened with mitochondrial challenges, inflammation. You can tell it from their faces, from their body movement, and for their lack of social connection. You can tell somebody's lack of social connection because you walked through an airport near them. You know, like what their friendships are like because you walked through an airport. You know how their mitochondrial function is, motherfucker.
What do you have to do like a specific mitochondrial CrossFit in order to like work that? Like, what do you have to do? What do I have to do to be like, I need to work my mitochondria?
I got to get my
I got to get my mitochondrial sweat on today. Like, what do I have to do to like make my mitochondria more robust?
Well, your mitochondria first has to master everything strict before it can move kipping. I know that. Otherwise, it'll damage your mitochondrial shoulders. You don't want it. It's a progression.
It's a progression. You look like fucking Marjorie Taylor Greene doing pull-ups. just flailing around.
What the fuck? This guy is in charge of stuff?
Yeah, man.
This is the RFK stuff. I know we said there's glimmers of hope. The RFK stuff is fucking scary.
It's
disaster.
A disaster. Bad. It's a disaster, and you knew he was going to be a disaster. When
so bad. I've already gotten this year. I refreshed my MMR vaccine because I was like, you know what? There's a bunch of people going to be walking around with fucking measles.
Yeah, refresh it.
And so I was like, what's the harm? Well, let me think. There's literally no harm because I'm not afraid of vaccines like a goddamn asshole.
Yeah.
So I went to CVS and they're like, sure, we can give you an MMR. There's lots of people getting boosted. I got a booster for my MMR. You know what happened afterwards? Nothing. I'm fucking fine because that's how that works. It's nothing. And then like I got a flu vaccine because I don't want to get the fucking flu because the flu sucks. And when if they update the COVID vaccine, I'll get that too. And I don't think they're going to. I don't think they're going to.
And there's not going to be anything because they're not going to pay for it either. So like our government, all the money that we've cut from our government, the money that we were paying to help, pay for our vaccines, all that money's gone now. So like it's just on your insurance company. Your insurance company's gonna be like, fuck you, I ain't paying.
I will say the only hope I have, and this is a weird thing to say, like if you're an insurance company, you're driven by money and you don't want people getting COVID because that's expensive. It would be cheaper for you to cover vaccines.
Yeah, for sure.
So I do hope that insurance companies, big insurance companies, will say, we'll cover the COVID vaccine just like we used to, regardless of whether it's on the vaccine schedule, because I don't want to pay to put you on a ventilator.
Could you imagine like how much? I think too, like there's a real danger in all the things he's doing, but like look at this particular thing that he's doing. He's down there signing like a Maha bill to take, and like the things that he's focusing on, like ultra processed foods and whatnot. I'm not against focusing on some of this stuff, but the collateral damage of attacking vaccines and other things is horrifying, right? Like that's genuinely horrifying. And like this guy thinks he can look at your kid and like he can see the percentage of red dye number 5 in them.
Yeah, man.
Like he's that's not a person we should be looking to for leadership.
No.
If a pandemic happens under his control.
Oh my God, we're fucked.
How fucked are we?
We're
right?
so fucked.
This is a guy. Could you imagine if he was in there instead of whoever was in there under Trump? Could you imagine how different that entire situation would be if he was in there instead of somebody who like Trump had as leadership when the actual pandemic hit?
Yeah, we're in like, I always said this, but like, we're in genuine like existential danger if something like that occurs.
Yeah.
Right. Because like COVID part 1 was a pandemic on easy mode and 1 million Americans died.
Yeah.
And we did a terrible job.
We stopped after like 5 weeks. We quit.
Horrible job.
We quit. We're like, nah, man, we're done. We're not doing any other kind of precautions.
And a lot of that was because federally, our messaging was terrible and disjointed.
Yeah. There was some people in the federal government that were like, this is really dangerous. There's other people in the federal government that are like, it's going to go away like magic. Like genuinely, we had no real cohesive message.
In the same day, you would have a press conference where the president stood behind Anthony Fauci, and Anthony Fauci would say science things into a microphone, and then Trump later would truth or tweet out contrary stuff to the message that just went out. He would take credit for Operation Warp Speed at the same time that he would denigrate the vaccine. So he would take credit and denigrate it. He would get the vaccine, but not do it publicly. Yeah. Every message was a mixed fucking message. Now you got fucking RFK Jr., who was labeled as one of the largest, most successful, most prolific purveyors of misinformation about vaccinations, like on the entirety of the internet, before all this stuff started. And he's walking around making shit up like this. Like fucking, I'm not saying that there are not mitochondrial issues that people can have, but they are not, I walk down the street in the airport and I can see a kid with a mitochondrial problem.
Sure, yeah.
The same thing is like, I can see people with inflammation problems. Like these are what he's thinking of, what he's referring to is fucking internet diagnosis bullshit.
And he's referring to internet nutrition.
Yes.
Right? It's all
this like, fucking podcast bro shit.
Everything about this is all steeped in metabolic health.
Yes.
Right? That's all steeped in the same thing. The people that they talk to when they want to find out about his policy, they reach out to his policy advisors, who is Callie and Casey Means.
Yeah.
These are influencers. Does one of them have a degree in like surgery? Sure. But like that's a different thing than being a nutritionist, right?
Absolutely.
That's a different thing. Like being someone who was like a doctor who did actual surgeries and never actually became a full doctor, that person is different than someone who can give you nutritional advice. I'm not saying that they can't know those things, but it's not in their wheelhouse to know that automatically. So we shouldn't automatically confer on that person the idea that knowledge is theirs. Right. They should have to prove that they know that knowledge. And what they're sharing is the same shit that fucking like, I don't know, some fucking random TikTok influencer is sharing.
It's just like having fucking Food Babe in charge.
Yeah.
It's trash science. It's trash influencers.
It's cherry pick studies.
It's cherry pick nonsense. It's made up studies where they just straight up make shit
You're not wrong. Made up studies, but a lot of cherry pick stuff. A lot of cherry pick stuff where you find it and you're like, you look at the study and then you look at all the other studies that contradict it, or the way that study was done was not
the size of the cohort, or like all these confounding variables and stuff. You're like, this is not the best science.
Yeah, it's bad.
And like the other thing too is you should look at when you've got people who are influencers and you're like, oh, well, I mean, these guys have obvious competing interests. There are conflicts of interest. They are making money on a certain kind of message.
Yes.
They are making enormous amounts of personal money on a conflict on this message. So if they get everybody to buy into their message, this is good for their fucking branding.
Sure.
Man, like if you I just like out loud and if you have branding, you should not be in government.
Yeah.
If you think of yourself as a brand, one, you're an asshole. Two, like you should not be in government. Like anybody who's like, well, my brand, that person's trash. You shouldn't talk about that person. That anybody who wants to talk about their personal brand should be fired out of a fucking catapult into the sun.
He will kick, he will flip, he will kill people, and everyone will love it.
Why are you doing this?
For fun. We're in the entertainment business. I'm entertaining myself.
This story's from MSNBC. CDC employees walk out to rally in support of ousted leaders.
3 people resigned.
Yep.
And they resigned en masse because they knew that this would get more attention than just one person getting let go. So one person was fired, and when they were fired, 2 other people resigned immediately to try to draw attention to this. It's a big dust up at the CDC And because of this, Bernie Sanders wrote an op-ed in the Times that says Bernie Sanders, Kennedy must resign. That's the entire op-ed. And it's a long op-ed that talks about how bad he is at his job, how he's underqualified, and how he should step down because he's not the person that the United States needs at the helm.
No.
And he's forcing out people for personal matters. That's essentially what he's doing.
Yeah. And he's a really fucking dangerous human being. Like RFK Jr. is a dangerous, dangerous human being. He is, one thing that we've talked about on the show, but I'll say it 1,000 times and 1,001 after, is that as the world gets more complicated, expertise narrows.
Yeah.
So we cannot pretend, and you cannot pretend, that we are or should trust or believe in the idea of this sort of like modern Renaissance man. You cannot know enough to be an epidemiologist and an expert on the housing industry and an expert on, foreign policy. There's not enough time in the day in your life to be an expert, because as the world has become more complicated, our scope of expertise narrows and narrows and narrows and narrows and narrows and narrows and narrows. So the people we need to trust on these really specific issues are the people who have developed and spent their entire lives studying these narrow pieces of expertise.
It's important.
I care only about what people at the CDC say, that like, if they are epidemiologists, if they are, people who have specific education and extended education in fields that are relevant and matter. But instead, what's going to happen is a bunch of fucking Yahoo political appointee bullshit, non-expert motherfuckers are going to be slotted into these roles. And they're just going to yes man rubber stamp whatever fucking crazy ideas a guy who fucking says he has brain worms and swims in contaminated rivers just decided is good for your fucking health.
One of the things that is going to happen and that we're seeing happen is you have a guy in there who, in the previous story, they suggest he's not a doctor. That's not necessarily something that you would need to be a doctor for, to be the head of the CDC,
Sure.
to be the head of health. He's the head of the Health and Human Services. So he's also the director of this. He also has like the CDC under his umbrella, but the Health and Human Services director, it varies. Sometimes it is an MD. Sometimes it's a politician. But what they have to do is be able to manage people. And what you're seeing from him is he comes out onto the microphone as if he is an authority in these matters, right? What you've seen in the past is someone who manages it may get an authority up to speak about it. But instead, RFK grabs the microphone and he's like, hold on, I'm gonna drop a couple lines. And then he fucking freestyles about mitochondria for 5 minutes while Abbott's trying to do this. So you have him talking as an authority as if he knows what he's talking about. He doesn't have any background in any of this stuff. He's not a person who is qualified to be making these things. He's barely qualified to find a person to make, but we would trust him to do that if he were to trust them. But he's not even doing that.
Yeah,
he's saying it instead of other people, instead of calling someone else up to the microphone. That should be as many alarm bells as you need.
Dude, that is such a good point. That is such a good point. Like, in my real life, like in my day-to-day job life, I manage a lot of people, and a lot of the people that I manage have very specific lanes of expertise that I don't have. But I'm in charge. So what I do is I will gather together a couple of these people and I will let them lead me from the level of expertise that they have. And then we'll develop a strategy or a vision together based on what they know that I don't know. And then my job isn't to like know all the stuff they know. My job is to take that and say, okay, well, here's what the experts have told me about this. And I trust these experts. And so let's go ahead and actualize this vision. It's a business thing, but actualize this vision based on what these experts have told me. I would never dream of telling the experts in their field what I know about their field. That's insane. He's leading from the top when he should be accepting the data first. Like the data should drive. This is a guy who says, no, I'm driving.
Yeah.
And he's driving because he's listened to a bunch of fucking podcasts about it, bro.
Yeah.
And he knows some stuff because he read it on his fucking Instagram reels or whatever. Like, he is uneducated.
Yeah.
And it's dangerous. It's frighteningly dangerous.
Fuck Florida.
Fuck Florida. Once my parole's done, fuck Florida.
Fuck the wheel, fuck this house, and fuck Florida.
And here's what it ends up in. This is a story from the New York Times. Florida moves to end vaccine mandates for school children. Yeah. So they're like, if this goes through, and I have every reason to think that it will, there will no longer be a mandate that children go to school and are vaccinated in order to register. So I just registered my fifth grader into a new district. And when you move into a new district, you've got to present all of your kids' like vaccination records. They are not allowed to go to school unless I come in and say they've been properly vaccinated.
Or they can't be vaccinated because they have
Or you have
issues.
a medical exemption, right? Yeah, you have an exemption of some kind that's accepted in your state. So and that's great, right? That's great because you're going to put a person in a population group with 800, 900 other kids, depending on the size of your school. And they're going to be in close proximity all day. And they're going to be eating meals together and sneezing together and coughing together. That is a hotbed for passing disease around. It's also a good place for the government to say public health policy should begin here, because in this space, we can put our arms around it. And once it gets out of this space, it's virtually impossible for us to get our arms around it.
Yeah.
As soon as you don't require it at the school level, where can it possibly become required? Pretty much nowhere.
Nowhere.
And you want to get these vaccines when you're young because a lot of them confer lifelong immunity, or if not lifelong, very long-acting immunity. This is a disaster. It's a disaster.
It's a genuine disaster. And I think, this person makes an argument to say, well, we shouldn't be telling these people, the government shouldn't be sort of regulating this. This isn't the government's job to regulate this sort of thing. That's a choice that you want to make as a person. And you're like, the government regulates all kinds of different things when many people are together in one place.
Yeah.
The government regulates that. A perfect example is like, we don't let you on the fucking highway unless you've passed tests and followed a bunch of rules. You got to follow these rules all the time. If you don't, you'll get pulled off the highway. If you don't pass these tests, we won't give you the things to get on the highway.
Right.
Can you do it without it? Sure. But if you get caught, you're fucked. If you get, you probably won't know as much. The government regulates that. We regulate that. We go out of our way to say, we want to make sure this space is safe. This area is as safe as it can be. It's never going to be perfectly 100% safe, but it's going to be safer than if we just let anybody who wanted to get in a car and drive the car. Drive it wherever they wanted to. We have to regulate that space. There's lots of places that we have to do that. Government has to regulate the places to make sure that most people are safe in these places. School is no different.
Yeah.
School is no different than those other places. This would be like saying, well, I think my kid can bring a gun to school. Like my kid's allowed to bring a gun to school because I can't regulate that space. I can't regulate whether or not I want my kid to protect themselves. Yeah. Like, okay, well, I want my kid to bring a gun to school. That's a stupid thing to do. We don't allow that. Yeah. We don't allow parents to do that. This is just another moment of their hyper focus on a very specific type of freedom.
Yeah, and they're lying about you're exactly right. They're lying about what underlines and undergirds it. And they're lying out loud in ways that are patently false. From the press conference, I'll paraphrase a little bit, but not by much. From the press conference, they said something like, I don't have the right. Who would I be if I mandated or tried to regulate what you put in your own body? And it's like, well, I can't buy heroin. You guys are regulating all kinds of stuff. If I go down to Florida, you're saying, Tom, you can't put heroin in your body.
Sure.
You can't. I mean, this is the same group of people that said, like, they're using a bodily autonomy argument in a state with an abortion ban.
Yeah.
They're using a bodily autonomy argument in a state with a prohibition on any number of drugs, right? So that's nonsense. They don't believe that. That's not a foundational tenet of their philosophical belief system.
Why have a health department check of any restaurant then?
Yeah, well,
if that's the case,
then let me, you know what? If that's the case, then let me eat ultra processed foods with food dyes in them.
Yeah, exactly.
You guys are saying none of this matches up.
Yeah.
Because they don't give a shit. Because they know that, like, as long as the end result is the result that their constituent wants, whatever fucking they say before the end thing doesn't matter. They don't care.
Yeah. This is going to be a disaster for kids in those schools.
Yeah.
Those kids in those schools, there's going to be a group of parents that aren't going to do it, and they're going to feel emboldened, and other parents might think, well, gosh, the government isn't doing this. They might not be informed enough to know whether or not, and they may err on the side of not vaccinating because they hear something, or they're in a parent group, or their buddies, the kid's friend's mom didn't do it, so they're not going to do it. It could bleed over into people that might have been vaccinated otherwise.
100%.
Right? And so you're going to have people who are lazy, won't do it. There's going to be people who got misinformed. There's going to be people who are rabid anti-vaxxers. And then you're just going to have like collateral damage of people that are outside of there, that those kids are going to get sick.
Yeah.
Now, there are going to be a group of people who aren't going to get sick. And
Sure.
those are going to be the vaccinated ones.
Yep.
And those kids will be able to go to school and not have measles, and then maybe possibly go blind from it or something.
Yeah, man.
And those things are going to rev up.
They're going to explode.
They're going to rev up.
Measles has like an R naught value of something around 18.
It's a lot.
It's crazy.
It's a
Measles
lot.
can hang out in the air for hours, for hours and hours. So you can walk into a space that nobody's in that space, and you can catch measles from somebody who was in that space several hours ago. It's incredibly easy to catch measles. But the other thing, it's not just going to be kids.
Oh, no. You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
There's going to be a lot of adults that are going to get sick, and they're going to get sick because their vaccination has timed out, or it didn't take all the way, because they don't always take all the way. They're not 100%. That's why that's why you have to get a fairly high number in order for there to be herd immunity. There's going to be people that are immune compromised. There's going to be people that are immune compromised because they're sick, and other people are going to be immune compromised because they're going through, let's say, chemotherapy or another treatment. There's a lot more vulnerable people than we think there are. And if you stop and think of the people in your life who have at some point in their life been immune compromised, it's more than you think. It's more people than you think. And there's no guarantee it's not you next week, because everybody right now could wake up and go get their physical and find out they've got, fucking colon cancer. And now they've got to take some treatment that's going to knock back their immune system. And maybe now you're the one who's in danger. So it's not just those kids. Everyone always thinks it's someone else.
Yeah.
It's someone else. It's someone else. It could be you tomorrow. It's just like welfare. It's like, yeah, I've never used it. Is there no possibility that you ever could?
Yeah.
You're immune to car accidents and other dangers.
It's a genuine lack of foresight on their part. But, we're going to see what this is. One of those find out phases.
Yeah.
You're going to find out. You're going to definitely find out, because if you take these things away from the population, you're going to see, we're going to have to relearn that this is a bad thing.
Yeah, man.
Right? We fixed it. It was fine. People made a fuss, convinced a bunch of really, really easily influenced people that this is a bad thing now. And now we're going to have to relearn how dangerous measles is.
Yeah.
Because we won't remember it. We won't remember how dangerous measles was. We've forgotten. And now we have to remind ourselves how dangerous it is. And so now you're going to see how dangerous it is in the next, I would say maybe 5 or 6 years if they don't fix this. If somebody else doesn't come in and say, that was stupid. No.
Yeah.
We're going to change it.
Exactly. When before there was a polio vaccine, people got a lot of polio.
Yeah.
And a lot of people died. And a lot of people were seriously, permanently injured from polio. And the March of Dimes was established to provide funding for a polio vaccine. That's what the March of Dimes was. When the polio vaccine became available, there were lines and lines and lines and lines of grateful people desperate to get that vaccine so that they didn't catch, or their children didn't catch polio. I remember during the Obama administration, when swine flu was going around, and there was a real worry that it could become like a big time pandemic, it was pandemic, but a big time, like world affecting pandemic. There's a lot of stories. I remember standing in a fairly long line to get that inoculation. And I got my first ever adult card that said I had been vaccinated. They told me to put it in my wallet. And I remember feeling so grateful that there was a vaccine for this. And all I had to do was get through this line without getting sick. And as long as I didn't get sick from being in this line, in a week or two, I was going to be fairly safe. I was going to be safe. These are the best technologies, medical technologies, among the best medical technologies we've ever created, because they do the magical work of making sure that we don't get sick rather than fixing us once we do. I can't believe we're going back like this.
I need some help. Here it is. I read something in this book this morning. In case of emergency, draw a door.
Draw a door? Hey, maybe we should try that beetle guy. You didn't actually think that was going to work, did you?
Knock 3 times.
All right, so this is some of the good news. CBS News, a federal appeals court ruled against Trump's tariffs. Here's what could happen next.
And the reason why this thing went through, the reason why this particular case went the way it did is a good thing, because there's multiple cases where they tried this. He tried to say there was an emergency, and they said there's no emergency. You can't use that as a way. And that was kind of their whole plan.
Yep.
And so if they can unravel all these strings in all these different places where they said there was an emergency, and they keep coming back with these rulings that say that there wasn't, and hopefully somehow that maintains its balance all the way to the Supreme Court, then we're in good shape, because that was their plan.
It was.
And it might thwart their plan at the root, which is a big deal.
Yeah. I really hope that exactly what you're describing fundamentally occurs, which is that it establishes a framework where we say you can't just call everything an emergency. You got to have some rubric that we use, that we all believe in.
Yeah, we all say.
Before you say that's an emergency and you gain access to these extraordinary powers. Some of the tariffs will continue, from what I've read.
Yeah, no, there's some that were put in by Biden.
Yeah, and some of these will continue because they're being enforced under a different set of laws. So they're not all being done under the same like auspices. So some of them will stay, like from what I read, like some of the imports on like steel would not be affected if this was overturned.
Yeah, because that was already there, or things like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it gets kind of complicated. I also wonder too, like what I think is that the Trump administration will simply decide not to pay it back.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing too, is like, just because a court says something doesn't mean it stays.
Right.
Because we've seen that the Trump administration doesn't care.
Right. So
was there any ever any repercussions for the way in which they treated people when they deported them and they were told to bring them back?
No
Was there
repercussions.
ever any repercussions?
No repercussions.
That's a real problem.
It's a real problem.
That's a real issue.
It is like we are setting ourselves up to continue testing those fences.
Yeah, I say, like, first off, and I've said this before, if there's ever a moment where the people that are not Republicans, and I don't care what they are at this point, right? I don't even care what they are. Non-Republicans control all three branches. The Republicans have to eat it for a while. I've already said that. They've got to eat it.
Yeah.
But you've also got to put in things like, something that is a stopgap so that in the future there are real punishments for doing things like that they have tested and done.
Yeah.
There needs to be real punishments there so that never happens again. And so nobody comes in and is like, well, I saw what Trump was able to get done when he declared a bunch of emergencies and then they disregarded subpoenas and they disregarded judges' orders. I'm going to do that in the future. Instead, I figure out a way to make sure that never happens again.
Yeah.
So if the judicial system says this and they make up a decree, it is a decree and that's it. And then if I'm the president, I'm like, just ignore it. Be like, no, I'm sorry. All the people who work for you are going to be arrested.
Yeah, I think that's got to be the way to do it. I was thinking as you were talking, like, it's like you've got to pass like an Emergency Powers Vetting Act. And built into that act is, look, we get that president's got immunity, but everybody who works for him doesn't. So if the president declares an emergency and that emergency is now required to go through this new 30-day, 90-day vetting process, if the fucking Plinko machine spits out that it wasn't an emergency, everybody who did this other thing is open for prosecution. So if you're an advisor, if you're one of these fucking lackeys that is doing the work of like pushing this shit forward, your ass is on the line. So if I'm the president, I say, look, I want to invade Venezuela and shoot missiles at fucking, boats or whatever. Somebody's going to be like, I'm uninterested. I'm not helping.
You know what this does? It creates a deep state.
Yeah.
Right? So what you're doing is you're creating a state that now has to take care of that sort of thing when we didn't have to do it before.
Yes.
So the fear that they stoked about creating a deep state and how there's a deep state and it's a deep state and it's controlling everything, what they're doing is bypassing everything in government that was ever around, so that now in the future, if you want to prevent that, you actually do need a deep state in order to prevent it. So what they're doing is fostering the idea of a deep state so we can protect ourselves against them in the future.
Yes. To some degree, but it's always been a theoretical degree, right? To some degree, we've always had this in place in the sense that if I am a government official, if I'm military, whatever, I am, generally speaking, like my job is to uphold the Constitution from all threats, foreign and domestic. I am allowed to disobey unlawful orders. I'm required to, all this stuff. But like we've talked about before, if there's nobody helping to support the people to do that, then those people are incredibly vulnerable.
Yeah.
Mister, you're going to jail.
I didn't know it was illegal.
I beg your pardon.
This story is also good news. BBC, Trump's use of National Guard in Los Angeles ruled illegal. This is great news.
Again, and this particular case could be precedent for him to send troops other places. Supposedly, he's already sent troops to the naval base nearby.
Yeah,
in Chicago.
I heard that.
Supposedly, he's already sent troops there, and they're waiting to be deployed. And they are already in D.C., and he has unusual powers in D.C. that he doesn't have other places.
Right.
But him sending troops all over the country, if this continues up the chain, which it clearly will,
Right.
everything's going to the Supreme
Everything's
Court.
going.
So everything we say today is going to go to the Supreme Court eventually. But they're going to hear these, or they're not going to hear them. They're going to just say,
Right.
no, we won't hear them, and the ruling stands. But he's lost in all these appeals courts. So any appeals courts that these two that we talked about, these are appeal. Like the next thing
is the
Supreme Court.
Yeah.
So these couple, and this one here's a real important one, which is there wasn't an emergency and you can't send troops there. Again, it's chipping away at this foundation. Some would call it a heritage foundation that's underneath it, right? There's this foundation that's underneath there that they have built, that they recognize there's really, really powerful shit the president can do if we just say there's an emergency. And this is all in Project 2025, right? So it's all there. So they knew that they could do acting shit and they could do emergency shit. And they could do all this stuff and get away with it. And I think that if they chip away at this quick enough, maybe even in a year and a half, none of this stuff can happen anymore. It would be amazing if that would be the case.
Yeah, these are, because Congress has ceded their responsibility.
Exactly.
This is the only way we can possibly be safe. This is the only check and balance we have.
What happened to the carpet?
Oh, it's one of those 18th century wet rugs.
New York Times, appeals court blocks Trump's use of Alien Enemies Act to deport Venezuelans. The case appears set to return to the Supreme Court. So he was using an 18th century law, again, citing emergencies that are not real in order to deport people.
Yeah, and this one, they said, the judge even very specifically said, there is no emergency that allows you to put troops at our border for gang members. That's not real. You're using an act that is not meant for that. And it's very explicitly in the act, and this judge says it. I am interested, because this is going to the Supreme Court, a couple other things are, I'm sure. I would be very interested to see if they hear these cases, and I'm also very interested to see them tie themselves into knots to try to give Trump his way, which is what they do. A lot of these are real cut and dry, right? Like, this isn't an emergency. That's an easy thing for with a very objective answer.
Yeah.
Right. And I think this stuff doesn't pass the reality test, the real simple reality test that they have to create a new reality in their decision, which is what they're going to have to do.
And I want to say, I love these rulings. I think they're the right rulings, obviously. I'm really, really worried about this going to the Supreme Court. And the reason I'm worried is for exactly the reasons you just described. I think that the Supreme Court, especially with the president is immune. I can imagine a decision, the logic for which runs something like, we cannot constrain the president's ability to declare an emergency because emergency powers are, by definition, powers that have to be declared quickly and decisively. And that is a power given to the president, and we can't hamstring his power to do that as a matter of national security. I can imagine some kind of bullshit like that farting out of the mouth hole of Clarence Thomas and his ilk.
Yeah. And I think, like, you can still have that ruling and say, but the courts can tell you it's not an emergency.
I hope so.
You know what I mean?
That's all we need, right?
Because you could still say all that stuff and then be like, yeah, but the courts can tell you it's not an emergency, and then it's not a fucking emergency.
Not an emergency, yeah.
Or Congress can tell you it's not an emergency, and it's not a fucking emergency. You can't get Congress to do shit now.
Yeah,
because all they'll do is just lap up whatever he spits out. So you're going to have 100% Congress following him around. And right now you're wondering if the Supreme Court's going to do the same thing. I mean, I don't put it past this 6-3 majority they have to basically do literally anything he wants whenever he wants it.
Yeah.
So I don't have a lot of faith in the upper levels of this. We'll see what happens. I mean, like at this point, it's just a waiting game to see what happens. Some of this stuff they didn't actually stop either. So some of the things that we've mentioned, they haven't stopped it. They just said you can't do it. So like some of the stuff they're like, oh, we can't like go back and spin the clock back and things like that. And they're waiting for it to go up to the next level where they're not actually pulling back some of his powers. They're waiting for the next level to actually pull those powers, pull that power back. So it's a bad place, but it at least has like a glimmer of hope.
Yeah, I think it's important to note that like there are sane people still in the system. There are sane people who are trying to preserve democracy still as part of our system.
We're willing to wipe the slate clean, give you a fresh start. And all that we're asking in return is your cooperation in bringing a known terrorist to justice.
This story's from MSNBC. Democrats threaten charges for troops who commit crimes at Trump's direction.
There's a piece of tape I'm going to play. It was from Pritzker's closing speech, and I think it's worth listening to. So I'm going to play it. I got to get to it. It's 10 minutes in.
Finally, to the Trump administration officials who are complicit in this scheme, to the public servants who have forsaken their oath to the Constitution to serve the petty whims of an arrogant little man, to any federal official who would come to Chicago and try to incite my people into violence as a pretext for something darker and more dangerous, we are watching and we are taking names. This country has survived darker periods than the one that we're going through right now, and eventually the pendulum will swing back, maybe even next year. Donald Trump has already shown himself to have little regard for the many acolytes that he has encouraged to commit crimes on his behalf. You can delay justice for a time, but history shows you cannot prevent it from finding you eventually.
That's something else.
Yeah. I fucking love our governor.
I do too. I think he's crushing it.
Yeah.
I think he's doing a great job. And I like the way he's saying that. And it's what we talked about already, which is you need to put people in place that are going to punish the people who did wrongdoing under Trump.
Yeah.
Just like you suggest, you can't go after Trump. The Supreme Court basically gave him a get out of jail free card. It's a fucking community chest card or whatever.
Yeah.
You can fucking get out of jail whenever you want.
His thimble gets to move around the board at whim.
His little fucking top hat or whatever. But the rest of the people under him don't have that. They don't have that immunity.
None.
And you know what? Make them fucking eat it after it's over.
Yeah.
Genuinely make them eat it. Make them realize they made a huge mistake supporting someone who is going to break the law. That he can break the law, but other people can't. And you're going to get stuck holding the bag because he can't hold it. He's immune.
Yeah. I love the way that Pritzker was like, hey, he's already seen he doesn't give a shit about you.
That's
there
a
are
great
other
point.
people that have eaten shit. Like, you know what I think of? Think of how bad Rudy Giuliani's life is now.
Yeah.
Rudy Giuliani.
He just got in an accident.
He just got an accident, got hurt. And
But then
I was
he
like,
got the Medal
fucking
of Freedom,
good.
like the same day.
Did he really?
Yeah, I wonder if like when his head hit the dashboard, the metal was there like, right through. I don't know.
Yeah, I know.
He like fucked his back up though.
I heard he
fucked his back up. Or
Good.
something.
Yeah,
whatever.
As somebody who's had a lot of back pain,
Whatever, man.
I know it hurts. I hope it hurts.
I don't care about Rudy Giuliani. I literally don't care about anything that happens to him. The only thing I'm doing is waiting for death to pull him out of the fucking grabber game. I'm just like, when is death gonna pull a Rudy Giuliani? Because I'll play the music for Rudy too.
Right. Oh, yeah.
I will play the dancing coffin guys for Rudy as well.
Fuck yeah. Like that's a guy who was Trump's bulldog, right? I mean, he was out there. He was vocal. He was doing the dirty work for Trump. His life is ruined.
Yeah.
His life. And that's the blueprint. That is the blueprint. Ruin the lives of the people who are doing the dirty work.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you've got to be really, really, what we saw with Biden and what we saw when he got fucking the milquetoast attorney general in there.
Yeah.
Is they didn't move fast enough because they were like, we're going to do everything by like as perfect as we can. We're going to, triple check everything. We're going to make sure we put this through, independent people, et cetera, et cetera. It's like, look, man, they wouldn't offer you that kind of thing. They wouldn't offer you that kind of respect. Don't give them that kind of respect.
Right.
Because they realize that you're taking it easy on them. You're playing on hard mode and they're playing on easy mode.
Yes.
So make it hard. And then make sure, like the Republicans too have always, for my entire life, thought that there was deterrence to doing crime by prison. And there was deterrence. The death penalty was a deterrent, and all these, like, punishment was a deterrent to them. And be like, okay, well, if punishment is a deterrent, we're going to punish you.
Yeah.
Because we want to deter you from trying to take over our government and fuck things up this badly.
It is the only way is to watch the lives of these people crumble. It's also worth noting that even if these things get pardoned later or overturned later, it doesn't rewind the clock.
Yeah.
It doesn't. If I got arrested tomorrow and thrown in the fucking clink and I'm fucking sitting in jail for 6 months, and then somebody comes along and says, my bad, Tom, you're out. It's not like those 6 months didn't happen. Yeah. It's not like I get out and I have my job back, right? It's not like going off to the fucking National Guard where if you go to jail, they have to hold your job open.
Yeah.
It's not like, things are good at home with my family. It's not like there's not real repercussions. We got to fuck these people's lives up. We have to fuck their lives up. That's it. Full stop. They've got to have a hard time. They've got to be in misery. They've got to be like, fuck, I wish that didn't happen to me.
And I recognize like what you're saying is harsh, but think about what they were trying to do.
Yes.
That's the important thing. Weigh it against what they're trying to do. If they're trying to come in and take everybody's rights away, they need to pay for that.
Yeah, man. Yeah. If they're trying to ruin our democracy,
they have to pay for that.
Yeah.
Feedback Clinic, this is Esther. What, did you suck his dick? Then you better come in. Okay.
This story is from the New York Times. Senator's visit to spy agency was canceled after Laura Loomer complained. That's the most important part of this story.
Yeah. So a senator who's on like the intelligence committee was going to go to a place where they had like an intelligence visit, and Laura Loomer complained on social media about it. And then the trip got canceled.
And this was not a publicized trip. This was a classified trip. Mark Warner is on the intelligence committee. It's his job. That's what he's supposed to do. That's part of that committee's work, is to go to these spy agencies, because that is the way that we have accountability to our secretive agencies.
Yeah.
They are not transparent and accountable to the general public.
Yeah.
They're accountable to the Senate Intelligence Committee.
And Laura Loomer.
And evidently fucking Laura Loomer. And she's like, yes, somebody at the fucking intelligence agency fucking leaked this shit out to me that he was coming. And then she's like, yeah, fuck it. She blew it up on social media. And then the Pentagon responded to Laura Loomer, who's fucking nobody.
She's nobody.
And canceled his trip and made it the work of transparency in government impossible to perform. Holy shit.
I would 100% get that person in front of Congress and requisition a bunch of shit that they have on their phones if I was in power. I would be like, no, we're going to figure out who exactly you're connected to.
Yep.
We're going to figure this out right now. We're going to figure out exactly who you're, because like somebody like Laura Loomer, who is literally a provocateur. Like Laura Loomer doesn't do anything except for provoke people.
Yes.
That's all she does. She's not even a good one.
Right.
She's like a bad one. Like she's like a budget Ann Coulter.
Right. Yeah.
What is that?
True.
What is that? A budget Ann Coulter. What does that tell you?
When you get your fucking Ann Coulter from Temu.
God, what they did was they made an Ann Coulter body pillow and they fucking reanimated it, and it became her.
Laura Loomer.
It became a Laura Loomer.
Yeah.
She's not even good at what she does.
No.
And she's got the ear of people in office. She's literally someone who is there to troll the other people that are on the other side of the fence.
Yeah.
That's all she's there for. And so she recognizes that power is necessary to do this thing, and that's what this is. This is just a complicated Twitter trolling that we're witnessing take place in our government.
Yeah, man. And like, here's the thing we should say out loud so that we all know that it's true. Laura Loomer, who is not a part of our government, she's not represented, she's not hired, she's not vetted. She is just Laura Loomer. She's just like you said, an internet provocateur. She now flexed and showed that she is more politically powerful than a duly elected United States senator sitting on our intelligence committee.
What does that tell you?
Holy shit.
What does that tell you?
Should we be comfortable with that? Should any of us feel good about that? Should any random fucking nobody be able to flex that hard? Holy shit.
It's insane to me that like the tiniest things that would happen in government that would be a little stretchy, a little pushing the boundaries when a Democrat is in is 24/7 on the news cycle after it's over. Like Biden looks at his watch during a funeral twice, and it's on the news for 4 weeks afterwards, right? Trump doesn't even go to the fucking funeral.
Right. I know.
And it's like, no, I don't care. Whatever.
Doesn't matter.
Laura Loomer, somebody who's not in government, can get the Pentagon to do something.
Yeah.
And somehow, now granted, it's not in the New York Times, but I bet you it's not on Fox News.
I know, man.
You know?
I know.
It's not getting told to your boomer parents, that's for sure.
And the story won't have legs.
No.
Like it's a story we read, we get mad about, and then it just fucking dies.
Yeah.
I beg of you, leave her to the justice of the state.
When there is no justice in the state.
New York Times, Epstein victims call for release of more documents and accountability. There was a press conference, Cecil.
I listened to this whole thing. I watched it. I didn't watch it. I listened to it. So it was on in the background. I was listening. And I listened to the whole thing. I heard everybody speak. I will say, even Marjorie Taylor Greene came off as someone who cares about these victims, right? Marjorie Taylor Greene spoke. Ro Khanna spoke. The other guy, Massey, I think his name is, he spoke as well. Marjorie Taylor Greene, at one point, she's done talking.
Doing burpees.
And she turns and she's like, and now I would like to recognize the person from Arizona. And I'm like, it's like, you're at a press conference.
What?
Like, you don't need to recognize someone. You're not on the floor. She doesn't even know she doesn't have to say that in another type of
context.
In another context. It's actually really funny. But in any case, they came out and basically said, like, look, we want to release these files for the victims.
Right.
And the victims all spoke. There was one interesting portion where one of the victims did say that there was a small group of people who were involved in this with Epstein, which is the first time I've ever heard someone say that publicly, right? So someone did say, one of the people said, and then immediately afterwards, the lawyer jumped in and said something to the effect of, it's not everybody that Epstein knew, and it's not everybody that Epstein hung out with, to kind of make sure that was, but there was someone who said in here that there was a group of people who were involved. Another person called out the person who ran Victoria's Secret. I forget the person's name. Do you know who I'm talking about?
I do know who you're talking about.
So he's like the big money that was behind Epstein. I forget the person's name.
Right.
But in any case, they were one of the funders of Epstein. And they called that person out as someone to look into.
Oh, wow.
During the press conference as well. So there's a couple of leads in there, and certainly some things that a lot of people will hear and be concerned with. But there's a piece of this I want to play for everybody that I think is really important to hear. So I'm going to put it on the big screen.
Every single time a new conspiracy gets circulated in the media, whether he is still alive, what powerful person had him murdered, who was on the Epstein client list, and there are names going around on TikTok and Instagram, we, the survivors, are suffering severely. We take our kids to school and everyone is talking about it. We can't read the news or do anything without hearing crazy stories that are only able to live on because the government continues to hide the evidence and the truth. So people just make up stories. Those stories hurt. They hurt real people who have already been hurt. And we have lost so many Epstein victims to suicide, and maintaining the real truth and secrecy only allows for conspiracy theorists to tell lies that drives up our anxiety and fears and will continue to lead to more pain, more suffering, and honestly, more deaths of innocent victims. It's time you do is right by us. Unseal all the documents. We are requesting transparency, and I am requesting every congressman and woman that goes against this bill be outed. I want to know. Thank you.
So I play that. There's this person is saying media.
Mm-hmm.
I think they mean social media, because I haven't seen any credible reporting at all that talks about Epstein still being alive Epstein killing himself, not killing himself. Someone murdered him. I haven't seen anything about that. I take the murdering thing back, because I have seen when they released that tape, they did put out that big story that was like, we're not seeing everything here. They said we're seeing everything and we're not seeing everything. And that can lead to conspiracy, right?
Sure.
Because when you say they released a tape and there's minutes missing from the tape, and that tape also doesn't show exactly what they're claiming it shows, there's real issues with that. You're implying that maybe he didn't kill himself, right? There's an implication
reason to be worried.
There's a reason there. So I recognize that news sources are doing that, but I think they're suggesting that social media, because they mentioned TikTok and Instagram and all that stuff, are releasing all these names, and you're giving open space when you don't have a sort of closure of this and a transparency like they suggest. What you're doing is planting seeds for conspiracy theorists to reach in and pull things out.
Yeah, man.
And I think it was a great point that this person made to say, you're basically what you're doing is creating a field for them to plant conspiracies in. When you aren't transparent with this information, please be transparent with it. And so I thought that was a really important piece of tape to play. And throughout the whole thing, many of them talked to Trump to say, please release these things. You can do it with a signature. You can basically do it without any congressional approval. You can just do this. Please do it. And nobody in that press conference, they tried to even, the people in the crowd, the press asked multiple questions about Trump, and everybody sort of just said, this isn't partisan. We're not doing this as a partisan thing. We're not talking about Trump. We're just talking about the files being released. So that was basically what happened at the press conference.
You know what would go a long way toward quelling this? Releasing everything.
Pretty much, yeah.
Just fucking release everything.
Yeah.
I was listening to No Rogan last week, and I was listening to the Kash Patel interview that you did. And Kash Patel was weird about it.
Yeah.
He's super weird about it.
He's dodgy about it.
And like, just fucking release it all.
Yeah, he's dodgy.
Just release it all. If there's nothing to see here, show me there's nothing to see here. Stop being fucking weird about it.
Yeah.
Just stop. The longer this goes on, when the solution is so readily at hand to stop this and to just move on to your other evil shit, the more I'm like, I wonder. I wonder. And if
you're not the only
victim
one
here.
You're not the only one. There's so many people out there that the more you hide this behind the door and be like, dude, there's nothing to see here.
Yeah, stop knocking on the door.
There's nothing in there. Don't worry about what's in there. You don't need to see what's in there. The more you do that, the worse off you're going to be.
100%.
And now, Trump, I saw him today. He was interviewed today right after this happened, because this happened yesterday. And he was interviewed today, and he had said something. It was a hoax created by Obama and Biden.
Get the fuck out of here.
And they mentioned hoax in this multiple times. They said Trump cooperated with people earlier or before he was president, and he didn't think it was a hoax then. Yeah. And so like they said, they call him out essentially to say, you're calling it a hoax now, but you know it's not a hoax.
Dude, the response is so weird.
Yeah.
The response, I literally cannot parse a reason for the response that's not nefarious.
No,
I can't come up with one. I would love for someone to help me with that.
I can't either.
So
so either it comes out or it never comes out.
Yeah.
Right? Because if it never comes out, but I think like this is really, the more he pushes back to, the more damaging it is to him.
Yeah, which keep the pressure on.
Great. Yeah, keep it on.
The pressure on. Never let the pressure off. 4 years. Like one of two things needs to happen. We need to just get all the information, and then we'll just let the truth guide our responses. That's what should happen in a sane world. If that doesn't happen, they should never live it down.
Yeah.
Because this is like so many other sex scandals. It's the easiest thing in the world to get right.
Yeah.
People who are pretending this is complicated are lying to you.
Yeah.
It's not complicated.
Yeah. And the conspiracy here, the reason why, and they talk about it multiple times in here, that he was allowed to get away with this. He got off easy. The reason why all that happened is because money can buy justice in this country.
1,000%.
And they mention it multiple times. There is a tiered justice system in this country, and billionaires get a totally different track than you and I. They don't get to, if anybody that commits a crime and doesn't have the money to get out of it, they get the full weight of the justice system thrown on them. If they have the money to get around it or the powerful friends to get them out of it, they get out of it. And there is a tiered system in this country that needs to be addressed. And this is a way to start addressing this. This is a very rich person who who could walk into any police office or any reporting, any newspaper, any television media, whatever, and just throw his weight around and get out.
Yeah.
And get out. I got your boss elected. Yep. You can't I contributed money to your paper, or I'm somebody who can ruin your paper's reputation. You don't do this to me. I will take you to court and run this paper dry. I'll bankrupt you like the Gawker.
Yeah,
I will do that to you. And they
exactly
can.
right.
They can.
Yeah.
And so everybody's afraid of them. Everybody won't act on them. It's not some big crazy conspiracy of all a bunch of high-powered people. You only need one high-powered person to pull this off.
Yeah. Money is not just money. Money is power. It is literally a thing that we've selected to say, this is our stand-in for power. It is more important than ever. Look, like estimates predict that Elon Musk by 2027 will be a trillionaire.
Really?
Trillionaire. He's worth somewhere around 420 billion right now. And that's just how the math plays out. So by 2027, he'll be a trillionaire. When we have people that are worth this kind of money, when the numbers are at this kind of scale, the power scales that way too. And we have to recognize, like, we've got to either build systems that hold these people to account now, right now, or we lose it forever. We've got to do that work.
Bring out your dead. Here's one. Ninepence.
I'm not dead.
What?
Nothing. Here's your ninepence. I'm not dead.
Here. He says he's not dead.
Yes, he is. I'm not.
He isn't?
Well, he will be soon. He's very ill. I'm getting better.
No, you're not. You'll be stone dead in a moment. Oh, I can't take him like that. It's against regulations.
I don't want to go on the car.
Oh, don't be such a baby. I can't take him.
I feel fine.
New York Times, President Trump is alive. The internet was convinced otherwise. I know, man.
I did not buy into any of this stuff. There was a bunch of these people that
I
were
didn't
posting.
see any of
So
this
a bunch
stuff.
of this stuff popped up right away when he didn't show up for like 2 or 3 days. It was like 2 days and he didn't show up and he wasn't anywhere. And then he was he went to a golfing thing and a bunch of people on the internet were saying it wasn't the same day, that they were taking pictures from a different day and trying to pass it off as this day.
Stop.
So again, it was just all this conspiracy nonsense that popped up. And a bunch of people were saying that he was a person who was, hidden from everybody. Maybe he had a stroke. There was a weird thing that JD Vance said where someone had said, we haven't seen President Trump in a couple of days. Are you ready to take control if necessary? And he's like, yeah, if necessary, I'll take control. And he didn't say like, no, he's fine. There's nothing wrong with him. He said, if it's necessary, I'll take control.
That's a weird response.
And
but
it's a weird response, but like a bunch of people went off the deep
good.
end.
Okay, good.
And so, yeah, what do you expect from JD Vance?
I'm sorry, you asked fucking
God.
Vice President Small Wonder.
Yeah. Whatever makes sense.
whatever makes sense. Okay, good.
Okay, good. The guy's amazing. But in any case, a bunch of people went crazy with it and they talked about it all weekend. And so there was this big rumor. He might be sick. He might have a stroke. He might be dead.
Right.
Maybe they're just trying to cover it up. And I had seen a tweet that someone said, oh, I see America's going through the same thing that we do here in Russia. Or in I forget exactly, that they do in other dictator-controlled places. Is our leader dead? We haven't seen him in a few days. And I'm like, oh no, we're there.
God.
We're there. But this is the oldest president we've ever had. He's the oldest president we've ever put in office. He's at this point got clear health issues that are glaring.
Yeah.
There are glaring health issues. And I think everybody's just hoping for one of these things to, if there's an equilibrium, we're hoping to knock it off the equilibrium.
Yeah.
You're hoping that the cankles knock the liver out of alignment and the whatever, maybe his mitochondria fights back against him. Who knows? Maybe RFK can, I don't know.
Maybe RFK will walk by him in an airport and be able to diagnose him.
I think he's a little socially awkward.
Is that inflammation, Mr. President?
Yeah, the whole thing is inflammation. Look at it all. It's all
Jesus
inflamed.
Christ.
Yeah, but I did have my finger on the live stream button because as soon as that happens,
Cecil,
I am going to live stream. I won't even be in the room, but I will play on loop the dancing coffin all day. I don't even care. I don't care if the stream gets taken down. If we never stream again, we never have to put
Doesn't matter.
It does not matter to me.
Nope.
I will play that all day.
All I'm hoping for every day is a front page obituary.
Yeah, man.
That's what I want to see.
What I did see on social media was a bunch of people posting the bottles of liquor they will break in when they do it. So a couple of people posting expensive bottles of champagne and whiskey and things like that. You have one on the side. You know, this is break glass in case of, and I'm I got to find a nice thing to break into. I've got to figure something out.
Dude, all I know is if my celebration lasts longer than 4 hours, I'll need to consult a doctor.
When he lost the election, the last time, we had a bottle of champagne that night. We had a bottle of champagne.
Beautiful night.
And we had a bottle of champagne. And this was while the pandemic was still going on, obviously. And we had friends over that night. We were like, fuck it. We're like, no, like, it's worth it. It's worth it.
Celebrate good times.
Yeah.
It's fucking Lionel Richie all day long.
And I'll do the same thing.
Yeah.
I'm going somewhere. I will go somewhere to celebrate with people that night. I will be somewhere to celebrate.
Dude, I'll be shooting fireworks into the street. I'll go like a fucking AK-47 and fucking fire that thing. I don't even have one.
I will go across the border to Crazy Kaplan's to buy fireworks. I don't even have fireworks, and I will get some.
God, we got to have fireworks on standby.
All right, that's going to wrap it up for our regular show this week. We're going to have a funny show on Thursday, and we're going to leave it like we always do with the Skeptic's Creed.
Credulity is not a virtue. It's fortune cookie cutter